Shanti, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to my heart and to the noon meditation today. I'll be talking about thinking a new thought. But before I begin the meditation, or to begin the meditation, I'd like to start with a short prayer. May the infinite Lord of life, of love, and of laughter bless you at this moment. May each cell of your being and each petal of your mind be touched, be healed, be harmonized. May vim and vigor and vitality be yours. May love and laughter be yours. May you truly find that which you seek, and may you find that which you seek surely, swiftly, and most harmoniously. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The theme for the meditation this afternoon is thinking a new thought. When I first started coming to the temple, Kriyananda talked about thinking a new thought. That's, I think, where I came up with the idea. I didn't think a new thought by myself. I needed some incentive to do it. But he talked about thinking a new thought, and in the idea of thinking a new thought, he said, what you do is you think of yourself in a situation that you've never been in before. And as you visualize yourself in that situation, think to yourself, what would I do to change the situation? If it's a good situation, what do I do to make it better? If it's a bad situation, what do I need to do to make it better? To fix the problem, whatever it might be. And so the idea is activate the mind, get the mind going, get the mind to start thinking, and start thinking about life, about your life. You need to think about your life and where your life is headed and where you're going. And the concept that he was talking about at the time was a pre-abstract thinking, and that's the term he used. And that's I'm just mentioning that to you because that's kind of where I got the idea to begin with, and it had to do with pre-abstract thinking, and it got my mind to think and to start open and to start to wonder, well, what if I was in some situation, some type of situation, whether I met somebody new, okay, what am I going to say? A lot of people know that I'm kind of quiet and reserved, and so I actually think about that a lot. And it's a funny thing. When I'm by myself, I can think of 100 things to say, but when I'm with someone and I first meet them, it's like, the mind goes blank, and I'm sitting there thinking, what do I say? What do I say? What should I say? And it's just one of those things I have to deal with in terms of my personality, and maybe one of these days I'll get that part of it kind of patched up and a little more smooth, flowing a little bit more smoothly. But anyway, the pre-abstract thought. Think of yourself into a situation, and if you're in that situation, what would you do? And then moving a step further from that, what is it in your life that you really want? And again, Kriyananda asked that question a number of times through the years. I don't want to say frequently, but a number of times he would either talk at the meditation or one of his classes, discipleship, something like that. And he would say to the audience, what do you want from life? And then usually he would pass out a card and a pencil and say, write down. Or if you have a sheet of paper, he would say, if you have a sheet of paper, take out a sheet of paper and write on the sheet of paper, what is it that you want from life? And a couple things would happen, of course. People start thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and wondering. And his response to that was, what's taking so long? That should be on the tip of your tongue. What is it that you want from life? What is it? You're living life. You're moving through life. You should have some idea of where you're going. And the point he was making in doing that and having us take out a sheet of paper, passing out cards, giving us a pencil, and then watching, as he said, write down what do you want. 2, 3, 4 minutes would go by and people are still thinking, what is it that I'm thinking? And then eventually everybody would write down something on the paper, and of course the next step is, okay, does anybody want to share your ideas? And somebody would raise their hand. And they would say one thing or another, but invariably it wouldn't take too long, 1 or 2 people, 3 people, and the person would say, I want happiness. And that stuck with me, that idea, that concept, that thought. And then, of course, Kriyananda's reaction to that was, you can't strive for happiness and get happiness. And that's true. Plato once said that, or is quoted as having said that, happiness, you get happiness, or happiness is obtained by the way you live your life. It's not something that you can go after. It's a byproduct of a way of life, I think is the way that it was phrased or translated. Happiness is a byproduct of a way of life. Now, implied in there, and maybe actually stated, I don't remember exactly all of it, but the implication in there is that you do need, if you want to be happy, at some point in time, you need to accept responsibility for your life. Saying in a slightly different way of saying it, if you don't accept responsibility for your life and what's happening, you can't really be happy. I would say certainly at a minimum, but it would be extremely, extremely difficult to be happy if you didn't accept responsibility for what happened to you and for what happens in your life. And so that's a thought that I want to give to you. And I do this periodically. Like I said, this was very early when I started coming to the temple, that all of this was happening. And throughout the years as I've been speaking and doing meditations and classes, I would periodically bring the point up. And so this is not the first time I'm talking about it. I've talked about it before, but it's an important theme. It's an important idea, and it's important to think about it, because that is what people ultimately want is, or what a person is striving for ultimately, is to be happy in their life. And it's kind of interesting as I was thinking about it and meditating on it, I came to the realization that in trying to express a message that I'm trying to get across, you can't get happiness by going out and just getting it, because for each person it's different. What makes one person happy, or what brings happiness to one person, will bring unhappiness to another person. What brings happiness to another person may bring unhappiness to you. And so there's a certain relativity to it. And to find out what brings happiness into your life, again, one of the key factors is picking up and accepting responsibility for you and for your life. Um, and then I suppose bringing in a third factor, I was listening to an inspirational speaker, and he was talking about happiness. In fact, one of the key themes in his speaking, and when he would talk, and he talks about it frequently, is happiness. And in talking about it, what he would say is he actually kind of went against what Plato was saying. He says people would talk about it's a way of life and how you deal with life, and that's what bring happiness is. But the way he said it was happiness was an obligation, and that's I heard that this was maybe a year or so ago, and he said happiness is an obligation, and I thought, wow. I had never thought that before. Hey, that's a new thought. And it was a new thought. And it's kind of an interesting, fascinating thought to think. Happiness is an obligation. And I would listen to the speaker, and I'm listening to the speaker. And I came to realize that what he was saying was that it's really true. To a certain degree, you have an obligation to the people around you to be happy. And just think about it. Think about you, think about your life. One of the examples that he gave was, when we're young, how was the relationship between your mother and your father? If the relationship was a good relationship, if the parents are happy together, your life became happy. However, if their relationship wasn't so good, if they had a difficult relationship, if they were struggling, fighting, that sort of thing, it affected your life. And you became unhappy. And as I thought about it more and more and more, I came to realize that there's actually a lot of truth to that. And so very young in our lives, we learn to deal with this concept of happiness. And in dealing with it, it's dealing with our parents and how our parents deal with each other. They don't have to even speak directly to you. It's in the background. It's there, and it's not directly directed towards you, but you are greatly impacted, influenced by the relationship between your mother and your father. And again, if it's a positive relationship, you generally have a positive outlook towards life. If it's negative, you generally have a negative outlook towards life. And so that's where this idea is happiness is an obligation. Parents have an obligation to their children to be happy. And of course, life is a circle. If you're a child, you have an obligation to your parents to be happy. If a child is unhappy for any reason, any particular reason, that unhappiness radiates out to the parents, and it affects your parents. It affects them personally, individually, but it affects their marriage also. Going all the way to the point, hopefully not being too negative about it, but if something tragic happens to the child, very often, I almost want to say it almost always, winds up causing tremendous damage in the marriage relationship. That's more of an extreme, just an extreme example, but On a less extreme example, if the child is unhappy for any reason, it puts pressure on the marriage, it puts pressure on the parents, because the parents care about the children, care about the child, and so they want their children, they want the child to be happy. And if the child isn't happy, they're thinking, okay, what do I do to help the child to be happy? And their job is cut out for them. It's cut out because, to a great degree, I go back to the beginning, and circling back and around back to the beginning. Happiness has to do with responsibility, and if the child doesn't start to understand that it has a responsibility to the parents, and I'll expand beyond that in a moment, but it has a responsibility to the parents to be happy. Very early, the child needs to understand it needs to start to pick up these responsibilities. And if it can do that, if the child can do that, generally speaking, the child will tend to grow up to be more bountiful, I guess is the word that comes to mind, but happier, better able to deal with life and be able to deal with other people in life. And so again, I'm talking about a relationship that exists very early in life. Then, of course, we grow up. Each of us grows up. We grow out, and so we move out into the world. And whatever we've learned in that childhood, and however we've been brought up, and what we've been taught to do during our childhood, that then moves out into the world, where we move to the classroom in school, and later on, after the school years, we have interactions with people that we work with. We go out, we get a job, and we have to interact with the people on the job. And I've already talked about it, but beyond the job, we have interpersonal relationships that between couples that eventually leads to marriage, and then we're back into that marriage relationship. Of course, it goes beyond that, even beyond marriage. Now, in the community that we deal with, we have to deal with the community, and if we go out and deal with the community, basically meaning strangers, if you want to talk about it as neighbors, but even beyond the neighborhood, you're traveling somewhere, and you get on an airplane. You get on the airplane, and most people just sit down and they put a box around themselves. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to sit here, get to my destination, and that's it. And so there's a tendency when you travel, and I've always noticed this. I have done a lot of traveling. But in noticing that, a lot of people don't even bother to say hello. You go in, you sit down, and you sit, and just no interaction there. And I guess most of the time when I was traveling, as I think about it, at least someone would say hello, but that was usually it, and it wouldn't go beyond that. What would be nice is if you have the opportunity when you meet people, start to think, well, what can I do to do something positive, to create something positive out of the situation, as simple as it might be, just in traveling or in dealing with everyday life. Again, the example is that you get on an elevator. It's the same thing. You walk into an elevator, and the only thing the person does is push the button on the floor that they want to get onto, and that's it. You say some kind of joke like, well, we're going past third floor. How many people want to bet we're getting to the fourth floor? The next is fourth floor. And, every once in a while you get a chuckle or something like that. But you say a little joke. But I want to get back to the idea. The concept is what I'm suggesting you want to do. If you want to improve your life, if you're searching for happiness and greater happiness in your life, expand that out to try and help other people be happy. So you say a little joke and maybe they get a little chuckle for the day. You've accomplished something, whether you know it or not. You've been able to take somebody that maybe even been having a bad day and change their day into a good day, as opposed to walking around grumbling. And it's funny, I knew a person that was like that, was in the work environment, somebody that I worked with, and just always had a negative attitude, always could see the negative side of a situation, no matter how good it was. You win $1 million, you say, most millionaires spend the money and wind up in poverty anyway. So you're taking a positive, happy event and turning into a negative event. And it affects the people around you. And it affects you. It affected me. I see that person walking down the aisle towards me and I turn around and I want to walk a different way. Or, turn around and go back where I'm coming from. Trying to avoid the person because you know that it's never going to be anything good, never going to be anything positive. So you deal with people always trying to think, how do I tell a joke? I know that's always through my mind. When I talk with people, I tend to think in my mind, well, is there any opportunity that I have to say a little joke, to say something a little humorous? A lot of times it'll come out silly, but the attempt is there, and a lot of times it doesn't come out so silly. And you get people to laugh, and it lifts the mood, and it makes the situation, any situation, if it's a good situation, it makes it better. If it's a bad situation, it can make it good. And I think that's important in the world today, to lift the mood, lift your spirits, to lift other people's spirits, the people that are around you, that surround you. Because it's a difficult situation. We're dealing with a virus, and people tend to be isolated at home, and so they don't get out much. When they do get out, you want to try and be a little bit happier, as difficult as it is. We've got our face covered, and so that's a terrible situation. Our facial expression is important in dealing with people. It tells people about you, and it tells you about the person that you're talking to. With the face covered, you lose half that expression. You can kind of see it in the eyes if they're smiling, or if they're sad, you can kind of see it in the eyes. But it's a difficult situation, and if you can tell some kind of a joke to alleviate the pressure, the tension that exists there, go for it. Try it. Do something that will help. But as Kriyananda would say, we are in the age of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means the age of ignorance. And so it's important to understand that that's where we're at. So like I said, you walk onto a plane, and generally speaking, people don't interact at all with people. You walk into elevator, people don't interact with anybody else. Even going to the store, under normal situation, under normal circumstances, when we're walking in a store, there's a natural, almost instinctive effort to pretend that nobody else around you exists. You just kind of ignore the people that are around you, and you search for whatever it is that you're going with. If it's a grocery store, you just pick up the food, go to the grocery line, and move on. Take the opportunity. You're passing someone, give them a smile. Say hello. Take the opportunity when it presents itself to try and make things a little bit happier. I guess another way of saying it, and I think this is a good way to kind of summarizing everything I've said, at least up until this point. The happy make the world a better place. The unhappy make it a little worse. The happy make the world a little better place to live. The unhappy make the world a little worse place to live. So smile, be happy, enjoy your life. And if you can do it, you'll find that if someone's coming towards you, they have just a straight face, nothing good, bad, or otherwise, and you smile at them, usually, I'm trying to think if ever there was a situation where it didn't happen, or you could tell it was someone who wasn't really in a good mood by their reaction, but you smile and you say, hello, how are you? Or you just say hi and you smile. And they automatically, it's a reflexive action. They automatically smile. And like I said, sometimes you can tell because they'll smile and then they'll realize, oh my, I'm smiling and I don't want to be smiling. And so they turn off the smile pretty quick and then just kind of ignore you and move on. But you got them to smile for a moment. And it's almost like that you say, wow, I've accomplished something. I made somebody do something they didn't want to do. They didn't want to smile, and I made them smile. So I gave them something. And just that thought alone, you think about it, and it makes you smile. Say, oh, how about that? An interesting situation. And, the happy people love life. Happy people enjoy life. And another thing that happy people have is a gratitude. Again, something that I've heard of, that I've learned, again, that I've picked up through listening to inspirational speakers, is that we moved into the age of Kali Yuga, as I mentioned before. Technically speaking, I think it began 3201 BCE when Krishna left the earth. And supposedly that's when we moved into Kali Yuga. And there's different theories about how long it's going to last. And I've talked about this before, but there's cycles within cycles. Some people say the Kali Yuga is going to last a long time. It gets a little depressing when you think about it. Other people say, oh no, within the age of Kali Yuga that we're in, there's little cycles and subcycles. So um, the you know the in, now we're in the age of ignorance, but we're actually moving out of this lowest age. They say the Bronze Age or the Iron Age, and we're moving into the Bronze Age. And then from there we move into the Silver Age, and from the Silver Age into the Golden Age of Enlightenment and all of that. Whatever the case might be, we're definitely in a situation, in a life situation, in an age where ignorance is reigning supreme. It's not difficult to walk outside, to go somewhere, and to wind up meeting someone that's either in a difficult situation or is unhappy for some reason, whatever the reason might be. And it's all around us. You turn on the radio and listen to the news. I can do that for about 5 minutes before I get indigestion. Very difficult to listen to the news these days. It's difficult to even get on the internet and see things that are happening. But I was getting around or moving around to this point of Kali Yuga, the age of ignorance. And in this age of ignorance, what has happened is a lot of people have moved into a state of self-pity. And this self-pity, because of their situation, it makes them unhappy. Actually, a lot of times it makes them downright miserable. And I think it's important for each of us, you and I, each of us, to realize that it's very easy to fall into this pit of self-pity, to fall in this pit of what I would call victimhood, and to feel like, oh, we're victims. We're victims of, we were born in some class situation. We were born in, with a debilitating health issue. We were born somehow in a situation that made it difficult for us. We were poor. We didn't have money, so I'm a victim of society because of that. And ultimately we get to the ultimate victimhood. Oh, I'm a victim of God. God is mad at me and he's punishing me for some reason because of something I did, I don't know when, but we fall into that. And it's at those moments that you have to realize that we hurt other people by having that attitude, by having that attitude of self-pity, by having that attitude of victimhood, by having that attitude that builds and builds and builds to the point where it says, life owes me something. God took something away from me, and now I want life to give it back to me. Life owes me something. And we do that it causes a state of unhappiness, or it results in a state of unhappiness. We become unhappy. I've noticed a situation where it's a funny thing, but there's people that I'm talking about money now, and people that don't have money or don't have things. When I was young, if they got money for some reason, they became happy. The money would bring happiness to them. In the world today, it's different. It's gotten to a point where when people get money for nothing, for free, they become unhappy. The money brings unhappiness into life. Some people would say, well, yeah, because there's this underlying subconscious feeling of guilt. I'm getting something for nothing. And that kind of filters in after time. I think that's true, but it's something that happens only when you have this pattern that evolves, where you get money on a regular basis, for whatever it might be, for whatever reason it might be. And when it comes in regularly, you start to say, well, I'm owed it. There's this attitude that it belongs to me and I owe it. And it's owed to me. And what I'm getting at, what I'm trying to get at is you've got to try and take your head and get it away from that. Now, some people do need help. Some people do need money. And it's important to help them. If there's a beggar coming down the street, give them a little money. It opens up your heart towards giving, is what we say in yoga. And so that helps you when you give other people a gift, it opens up your heart. So you start by giving people that you know money. I talked about giving them a smile before. Now I'm talking about something a little more materialistic, actually giving them money, a few dollars here. It makes you happy, and hopefully it makes them happy. But whichever side of the fence you're on, the giving or the receiving, there has to be a circle. I talked about this in the beginning of the circle, and we always somehow have to get that where if we receive money, we want to or need to develop an attitude, okay, I'm getting the money, somehow I need to return the money. You can return it maybe in giving somebody a smile, giving somebody a kind word. Maybe that's, you can't do it monetarily, but you can do it with your words. You can do it with a smile. You can do it with a attitude that you have that is open, outgoing, and happy, I guess is just the word that comes to me. It produces a happiness that is within you, and it should radiate out towards you and radiate out towards into the world. First, it's at a time, but as time goes on, it becomes part of your personality. And so you meet someone and you automatically smile and say hi, whether it's a friend or an enemy or a stranger. It doesn't matter who or what it is. You have the encounter, and the instinct, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that you're trying to develop, the habit, the instinct is to be happy. Again, that's really the theme for today, and thinking a new thought. And hopefully I've been able to, in sharing my ideas and my thoughts with you, share a thought maybe that you haven't had before, and so it's a new thought for you, and giving you the opportunity to think a new thought. If not during the meditation, during the talk today, when you go out into the world, when you go to a bed tonight, we call it in yoga, we call it tarka. That's reflecting on what happened during the day and the events of the day, and think about each day as you go to bed. as you're falling asleep or before you fall asleep, think to yourself, what happened today that was really negative? What was the most negative event that occurred during the day? And you think to yourself, what could I have done to make it better? You're starting to think a new thought. Something happened during the, and do this every day. Each day, you go to bed, before you fall asleep, you think, what was the worst thing that happened to me today? And what can I do to make it better? Did I meet anybody today that needed help? Did I help them? And then on the other side, you think to yourself, what was the best thing that happened to you today? And whatever that might be, is there something that I could do to make that even better? Or is there something that I can do that I can share? Whatever benefit that I got from living the day today, whatever I received that made me happy, is there something that I can do to help to make that better and to share with other people? And how do I do it? And so you think, what can I do to make tomorrow a better day? And you're thinking about that before you fall asleep, and then you take those thoughts as you fall asleep and you take them into your dream state. And after you take them into your dream state, when you wake up tomorrow, you bring out the answers that you've been meditating on all night and dreaming about all night. And whatever the answers were to that question, how can I make today a better day? Now you live those answers. You activate the thoughts, the new thoughts that are coming into your life, and activate them to produce a more positive, a more open, expansive, happy life. And as you do that, part of what I talked about in summarizing, part of this, the whole same idea, concept, thought, whatever happens in your life, be grateful for it. If it's a negative thing that happened, think about what can you do to make it better, whatever event occurred. What is the idea, what is the thought that you came up with to make your situation better, and be grateful for the opportunity for the situation to get better and for the thought to make it better. I came in with a sickness in this lifetime, and next lifetime I'm going to make sure I'm not going to have that same sickness again. And so expand it beyond even this lifetime, and keep that thought in mind, because sometimes things are chronic illness. A bad thought could be a chronic illness, but it can be a terminal illness that might be there. And you say, well, how can I think of something positive about that? Or why should I think of anything positive about that? And in yoga, again, we would say it's because you're going to pick up, this lifetime is going to end for each of us. That's a certainty. That's a given. But what's also a given is you're going to pick up another lifetime. And so whatever you have going on in this lifetime, you're going to carry it into the next lifetime. And what I would want to carry into, or what I'm planning on doing or trying to do to carry into my next lifetime, is the thought, I can be happy and I will be happy. I'll be happy this lifetime. In the next lifetime, I'll be even happier. And the lifetime after that, I'll be even happier the next lifetime. And the lifetime after that, I'll be enlightened. Or maybe the lifetime after this, I'll be enlightened. Or maybe next lifetime or I'll be enlightened. Or oh, how about maybe this lifetime I'll be enlightened. And with that enlightenment, all the difficulty dissolves away. The poor health dissolves away. The poor frame of mind dissolves away. And in that enlightenment, you'll carry those around you and share in that enlightenment. And sharing in that enlightenment, carry them up with you, lift them up with you. The people that you love and the people that you don't love so much. You move up into your enlightenment and you pick them up and enlighten and give a small piece of that enlightenment to each of them. And with those ideas and those thoughts, I'd like to close the meditation with an Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Or maybe it's an Om Happy, Happy, Happy. Back straight, eyes closed, attention focused between your eyes at the center of the nose. You turn your head to the left and double exhale. Bring your head forward and immediately inhale. Om.